Hey there, welcome to another episode of Storytime with Elroy. Did you know that Jock London knows the Tooth Fairy? That's crazy, right? Well, it's true, and you know how I figured out? Well, I was over with my nephew, and he had just lost his tooth. And I said, why, hey, you should put your tooth underneath your pillow. If you do that, then when you wake up in the morning, there'll be money there. You know, it's kind of interesting. I wonder what the Tooth Fairy does with all those teeth. I mean, the Tooth Fairy pays for all of them. So maybe the Tooth Fairy, puts them all together and makes dentures or something? It's kind of crazy. But I guess that's beside the point. Anyways, so I had my nephew put the tooth, under the pillow. And he went to bed. Well, later on that night, I heard a noise upstairs. So I went up, and I opened the door, expecting to see the Tooth Fairy, when I saw Jock London. I was like, Jock, what are you doing? And he said, oh, Elroy, I'm just looking at these teeth. I said, well, are you taking them? Wait, there aren't any teeth there. You're just holding money. He said, oh, well, the Tooth Fairy wanted me to check on the money and make sure that everything was okay. I said, really? Why are you putting it in your pocket? And he said, well, I have to make sure it's okay. And I said, well, why don't you put it back under the pillow? He said, well, I will, but first I need to put it in my pocket and take it home and count it. And I said, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but if the Tooth Fairy told you to, then I guess you should. What are you doing with those walnuts? And he said, well, these will be put underneath the pillow until I return, just in case they wake up. That way, they'll be like, whoa, the Tooth Fairy's giving out walnuts. And just then, a squirrel walked by the window. Now it's like, ah! The squirrel was like, cha 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 cha. And he was throwing all these nuts. And I was like, oh, ow, ow, ow. And anyways, it tried to get the walnuts, but it didn't. Well, that's how I figured out that Jock London knows the Tooth Fairy. My nephew said when he woke up, there were just walnuts there. So I guess that maybe the money didn't come out right, or there wasn't enough of it, or it didn't weigh the right amount, or whatever Jock London was saying. Because I know that he didn't take the money. He was probably gonna give it back to the Tooth Fairy, and I'm sure the Tooth Fairy will give it to my nephew soon. Well, that's all for today on this story time with Elroy. Don't forget this episode's sponsored by Jock London. He's awesome. Well, see you in the next episode of Storytime with Elroy. Don't forget to subscribe.